Hi everyone, and welcome to an introduction to restorative yoga for beginners. So, as part of your beginners course, you've been working with different types of yoga and a few different teachers as well. And it might be that by this point in the course, you're starting to maybe feel the effects of that more physical kind of yoga practice on your body. And it's a lovely place to introduce you to the benefits of restorative yoga. So restorative yoga is a practice which encourages the body to be completely still, and not completely still in a place that feels uncomfortable. Our aim, in fact, is to be so completely comfortable that the body can drop into total stillness and feel totally relaxed there with no desire to move. So a huge part of a restorative yoga practice is in stillness and in quiet, but equally a huge part is in setting up the shapes so that they really serve and suit your body so that you are able to completely relax. Those periods of complete stillness and relaxation can be up to 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, not unusual in my restorative classes at the studio. And for today, we're going to kind of work into that a little bit more gently. So actually, being still for 20 minutes it's a good challenge. It's a good challenge for the brain. It really relies on you being able to set the posture up in such a way that you are going to feel completely comfortable. Today we're going to work through 3 very common restorative yoga shapes. I'm going to talk you through the setup for them in some detail using the props that we've gathered. I'll talk through those in a moment as well. And then I'll give you just 5 minutes of quiet. When I say quiet, there will be some silence. I won't speak at all for some periods of time. But occasionally I might draw your attention to a part of the body. I might draw your attention back if it feels like it's wandered away. Or I might let you know when we're going to start to think about coming out of the posture. If you want to, you're more than welcome to play some music while this practice is happening. So my suggestion for that is always see if you're able to play music on a different device to the device that you're watching the video on. So you can hear my voice nice and clearly, but at the same time you can play some relaxing music, some of your favourite music that is very calming. I'll maybe include a suggestion along with this video. So I'll pop a link along with this video for something which is really lovely and soothing to listen to during your restorative practice. So you'll need, for your restorative class today, a few bits and pieces. So these were mentioned in the description of the class, but if you don't have them, feel free to pause the video and go and grab what you need now. You're going to need a minimum of 2 blankets. So I've got a thick blanket and a slightly thinner blanket. You just go and grab 2 blankets, or if blankets aren't available, 2 thick towels will do the job just as well. If you're somebody who tends to get cold or likes to cover yourself up, then a 3rd blanket might be useful just to cover the body with at certain times. So you'll need 2 blankets, you'll need 2 pillows. The ones off your bed will be just fine. I've just grabbed these ones off our spare bed. And you'll need 2 solid, chunky books. So I have these 2 kind of old favourites that I use for my restorative practice when I don't have yoga blocks to hand. If you do have yoga blocks, so things like this foam brick, you're more than welcome to use them instead if that suits you. If you don't have the yoga blocks, the books are going to do that job perfectly. So with that, let's come into our first restorative yoga shape. These props are just the beginning. So as we move into the shape, I'm going to talk you through how it might feel, how it could feel in your body. Excuse me just a second. How it could feel in your body. Sorry about that. And we'll start to work into variations that could feel more comfortable. You could add things, take things away. So as we move into the shapes, you might find that you actually need to run and grab another prop. And that's not a big deal at all. That's just you learning how you're going to build the shape for your body to sink into completely. So if you do need to pause the video at any point, feel free to do that. Go and get extra bits and pieces that you feel like you might need. Otherwise, we'll get started with our first restorative yoga shape, which is going to be a child's pose. Child's pose is often given in a flow yoga practice as a resting shape. But it's actually a real challenge for lots of different bodies, particularly if you're working in a bigger body, or if you're working in a body where you're quite muscle bound around the hips and the legs. So if you've got very tight hamstrings, it can be tricky. Tightness or pain in the lower back, it can be tricky. There are lots of different things that can make child's pose feel less like a rest than maybe it would for somebody working in another body. So in our restorative practice, we're really mindful of that. We're really mindful of that, and we try to make child's pose as accessible as possible. So to get started, for everyone, regardless of whether you feel like child's pose is comfortable or not, we're going to start with some basic props. Before we get to that, I'll just show you what child's pose looks like. You might have already come across it in some of your classes, but in a traditional or moving yoga practice, child's pose would involve us sitting hips to heels, hips down on your heels, reaching the arms out long away from the body, bringing the forehead down to the floor, and then potentially even sliding the hands back alongside the body so the palms of the hands face the ceiling and the body is tucked in here. So that's our basis for a child's pose. In a restorative yoga practice, we're going to take all of the tension away from that shape. So we're going to start with the books. Bring the books out in front of you. You're going to stack two books side by side, creating a little platform at the top of your mat just in front of you. If your books aren't exactly the same height, don't worry about it. You can always grab more books. You can always grab extra books if you need to. You're then going to take a blanket. That's going to be the next prop that we need. So grab a blanket. I've gone for my thicker blanket here. And you're going to fold that blanket into a nice little rectangle that will stack neatly on top of your books. I could go a little bit higher than that actually, I think. So you want to get yourself a little bit of height here, yeah. So a nice little rectangle that stacks on top of your books. And once you've got the blanket stacked on top of the books, we're going to bring in the pillows. So the two pillows are going to come in. The top end of the pillows will go on top of the blanket there, and the bottom end will slope in towards your body. So those are the props that we'll set up in front of us. To come into this kneeling position, there are a couple of things to be mindful of. The first is, if you aren't very flexible, it's very hard to sit your bottom down on your heels and feel comfortable. If that's the case, you can give yourself some support by rolling up your other blanket into a soft cylinder. So it's still got a bit of squish to it. I've not rolled it as tight as I possibly could. And tucking that in behind the backs of your knees. So that's going to just prevent the hips from crushing down against the heels. It's going to stop you from feeling like you're really putting lots of pressure down. It will feel like there's a lot of pressure if you sit upright on it because you're putting weight through your calf muscles. But when we start to come forwards, it's going to provide that support that you need. If that is not enough, you're more than welcome to tuck a pillow in underneath you, or, and I'll just grab a second pillow to show you this option. Grab another one of these. This is another option that is really useful for supporting the body in a child's pose. So if your pillow is not a long, thin one off the bed, you might have to give the pillow a little bit of a fold, but you can kind of climb up on the pillow as though you were climbing up onto a saddle, and you'll use that to take the weight of your body rather than dropping the weight of your body down through your heels. So the folded up pillow underneath you does the job of taking the weight of the hips away from the heels. So that's another option if that is interesting to you. So that's if you're not very flexible. If you are very flexible, and actually it's quite okay to sit down here hips to heels, the other thing that you might need to be aware of, because everybody's got their own different element in this to be a little bit mindful of, is, and this is something that happens to me, the tops of my feet go completely flat on the floor. So completely flat on the floor. So when I put the weight down through hips to heels, I'm pressing the top part of my foot, the flat part of the front of my foot into the mat. And if you're working on a hard floor, I'm working on a carpet, but if you're working on a hard floor or with a not particularly thick mat, you're going to find that the fatigue of pressing through the front of the foot starts to ache there. And if that's the case for you, if you're somebody who can get the feet flat on the floor, I suggest putting that second blanket underneath the front of the feet. You could even roll the top edge to just provide support for the ankle. So you're not pushing into the flat part of the ankle. You see how I've just turned over this top edge. So I've got a little roll just underneath my ankle. It might be that you're somebody who needs both support behind your knees and support under your feet, and that's fine as well. So have a little fiddle around with that, see if you can work out the version of that that makes most sense for your body. And once you've got your feet in the right position, you're going to think about your knees in relation to these props in front of you. Your knees are going to come out to the corner of the pillow. So knees either side of the corner of the pillow. And that's just to give you a good idea of where you're going. You might need to shuffle closer or further away, but this is just a starting place. And by taking our knees wide and leaving a gap between our body and the pillow, we're allowing somewhere for our belly to go. So our belly is going to make its way into the space between the thighs. And the reason for that is if we bring our knees close together, or if we scooch right forward so the pillows are right up against our body, all we're going to do is press against the body, press against the belly and take away our ability to breathe fully. So we'll find ourselves seated, comfortable position. You've supported your feet as you need, you've supported your hips as you need. Your knees are at either corner of your pillow. You're going to take an inhale breath for length through the nose. And as you exhale, you're going to bring the body down towards the cushions. So you're going to walk your hands forwards, slide your hands forwards. You might have to, at this point, shuffle forwards or shuffle backwards to bring the chest down onto the cushions. Chest comes down onto the cushions, and your head wants to find the part of the cushions which is fully supported by the blanket and the books. So the body is supported and held here by the cushions. I'm actually just a little bit far away, so I'm going to scooch in just a little bit closer. And this is something that you might now be tinkering with as well. You might have realised you're a little bit too far away, or you're a little bit too close, or you need to make some adjustments, or it might be that you tried to come down onto the cushions and they're miles away, and you need another cushion stacked on top, which is completely fine. If that's something that you want to go and grab, you're more than welcome to do that. We'll find ourselves eventually in a position where we can support our forearms on the blanket. So that's why we've put the blanket on top of the books, to provide a soft surface for our forearms. And we're able to rest our face on the pillows. And once you've found yourself in that position, you can change the angle of the head. So you might look in one direction, as I am doing now, looking over towards my right shoulder. You might choose, it might be more comfortable for the neck to turn the other way. You can test both out. Or, and some people much prefer, you could choose to bring the face down into the cushions and rest the forehead against the pillows, keeping the back of the neck long. So that's an option if you want it. You're going to find the version of this that makes most sense for you. And when you found your way into this shape, we're going to pause here. We're going to find some stillness here in this shape. And the stillness that comes about in this shape doesn't have to be immediate. Remember, we're looking to be comfortable before we're looking to be still. I say this all the time in my restorative yoga classes. Stillness is just a side effect of being really comfortable. So find yourself in a place where you can really let the body relax. If you need more props, you're welcome to grab more props. And we're going to start to drop into some quiet here. So if you need to turn up your music or press play, now is your moment to do that. If you want to close your eyes, you're more than welcome to. And as we fall into this quiet, see if you're able to notice the first few things that come up. If you're keen to move, you might need to move. You might need to adjust the shape. In our restorative yoga practice, there are a few things that can happen as we start to bring ourselves into stillness, into quiet. The first is that you might fall asleep. You might fall asleep, that could happen. It's much more likely that you'll drift in the place between being asleep and being awake. And that's fine. Another thing that could happen is you might be faced with sudden, relatively unexpected emotion. You might feel frustrated. You might suddenly feel sad. You could suddenly feel giddy and restless. Again, those things are just going to happen if they're going to happen. And part of our practice is letting them be what they are, letting those feelings, those sensations, those emotions just be what they are. We're in our last minute here already. When you feel ready, we're going to begin to make our way out of this shape. And we'll start by not moving the body at all, but beginning to bring our awareness to the surface of the body. So as if you were drawing your attention back from the depths towards the surface. Then you might be able to wiggle fingertips and toes. Eventually you'll slide the hands off the books, the forearms off the books, and you'll bring the hands to the floor. The hands on the floor are going to push the floor away and bring the body up and off the props. What we do now is we just gently move the props to one side as much as we need to, so that we can turn to sit, extending both legs out long in front of us. Well, from here, we're going to hang back into the hands. So it's a relaxed seat, hanging back into the hands. You might choose to wiggle the body. You might choose to roll the knees from side to side. You might want to drop the head. You move in any way that feels right for you. We have about a minute usually in between shapes, just giving us the opportunity to unwind the body from where it's been. And then once you feel like you've had a bit of a stretch, we'll meet back up and get ready to bring ourselves into the next shape that we're coming into. So our next shape is going to be a supported bound angle pose. And when we practice this in the studio, we tend to use different support. So it might be that you see this done in a variation of different ways. But for a home practice, we're going to adapt this shape so that it feels fully supportive, so that it really, holds the body, but it works with the props that you have. So what we're going to do to begin with is just adjust the top of our mat. So you'll need your 2 pillows. You're going to remove your blanket from on top of the books, pop that off to one side. You're going to use that for something else in a moment. If, like me, you've got a slightly skinnier pillow and a slightly puffier pillow, you're going to take the skinnier pillow and fold it in half. It's then going to go on top of the books, so creating a nice little stack. My mat ended up very wrinkled. We'll sort that out in a moment. Your other pillow is going to come on top. So your other pillow comes on top. So you've got sort of a triple thickness of pillow near the top, and then a single thickness of pillow sloping up towards it. You're going to bring yourself to sit at the bottom end of that pillow with your back facing that shape that you've constructed. You're going to use your 2 blankets here to support your legs. So I'll do the one that is most obvious to you first, and then I'll adjust myself on the other side. You're going to bring your feet onto the floor, your knees pointing up towards the ceiling. and just let your knees fall apart from one another, creating a diamond shape between your legs. Rules here, I use this, I say this a lot. The closer your feet are to the body, so bring them right in, the harder time your hips are having. And what I tend to see people do when I say that is drag their feet in. And actually, I'd rather you didn't. I'd rather you let your feet go out until it felt like the hips are more relaxed, more comfortable. You will find, playing around with the distance that the feet are from the body, your perfect sweet spot where your feet want to be in order for you to be supported and comfortable. Once you've found that appropriate distance for yourself, with your bottom at the bottom end of the pillow, your feet together, your knees falling apart from one another, you're going to take your blanket one at a time and just roll up the edge of the blanket. You might not need the whole, if I roll the whole blanket up, that's very high. I'm going to use just a little bit less because I've got a very chunky blanket here, but you choose whatever works for you. You're going to take that blanket, one arm is going underneath my knee, the other arm is going round beside, and I'm going to draw it in at an angle up towards my bum cheek. So it's coming in on an angle, hugging right up underneath my leg. So my bum is on the floor, but as soon as it becomes my hamstring, the back of my leg, it's resting on the blanket. You're going to do the same on the other side. So I'll just do the same on the other side over here. My slightly smaller blanket comes in on an angle, hand goes underneath my knee to catch hold of it so you can bring it in on that good angle. And what you should end up with is two blankets facing in towards one another, almost a bit like a triangle, but they probably won't touch in the middle, supporting your legs completely. So it should have taken any stress that you were feeling in your hips away. It should have taken any stress, any discomfort away. From here, we're going to hold on to the pillow that is back behind us. You might just need to adjust your pillows as you move here. You're going to hold on to the pillow that is back behind you because it will slide away from you otherwise. And you're going to bring your back onto the pillow. Again, it might just need holding on to so it doesn't slide away. It depends on the texture that your pillows are. Mine are a little bit shiny. Your head should be on the pillow. If your head is falling off the back of the pillow, you're going to need to readjust your body. So you're going to need to adjust so the back of the head is on the pillow. If you need to now adjust your blankets underneath your legs, you absolutely can do. You want them to be providing really good support for your hips. And so what we have ended up with is the legs falling open from one another. This is our bound angle. So the legs in this shape, Baddha Konasana, means bound angle. So that's the shape that we're creating with the legs that gives the name the posture. It gives the posture its name. It's an inclined bound angle pose because our body is on an incline, a gentle incline, but it is on an incline. If you would like the body to be up a little higher, another cushion is your answer. Pop another cushion behind the body and it's going to give you a little bit more support. Your hands can now rest wherever you like. Some people really enjoy letting the arms go as wide as possible out to the sides. Some people prefer the hands to rest on the belly. There are a small number of people who really like to practice this flat on the floor with no cushion underneath them and the arms overhead. And you might be that person, and that's fine if you are. Once you've found yourself into your version of the shape, you're going to begin to let the body drop into stillness. So a reminder that you don't need to watch the video. Once you've made those adjustments and you've found your version of this comfortable shape, you don't need to watch the video. You can let your eyes close. You can let your gaze wander, the face become soft. You're looking to find a real sense of letting go in the body. Of letting the body drop into stillness, comfort, and ease. The back of the neck is long. There might just be a slight tuck in of the chin. And the body begins to rest here. Just a reminder that your mind might wander, your attention might drift, you might find yourself moving towards sleep, and that is fine. You're letting those things happen. As the mind drifts and wanders, it relaxes and it drops further and further into softness, into a place of ease and comfort. Excuse me, not sure what caught me there. And if being still is hard, it might be that there are things you could do to adjust your level of comfort. It might be that being still is just a bit hard today. See if you can focus on the softness that floods the body with every exhale breath. And when you feel ready, with no rush, no hurry, we're going to very gently start to bring our awareness back. So as we move into our final few breaths here, we're just thinking about starting to draw our focus back from the very depths of the kind of soft, heavy place of the shape, and a little closer to the surface. When you feel ready, you might find you're able to wiggle your fingers or your toes. You might want to roll the head gently from side to side. Remember, we're not hurrying, we're not rushing. In your own time, you're going to reach the arms down alongside the body, catch up the outside of the thighs, and gently draw the knees back together. From there, when the soles of the feet find the floor, we're going to begin to roll over onto our preferred side. So you will know which side you prefer to lie on. If it doesn't appear to you immediately, then you can roll to either side and test it out. But you're going to begin to roll, putting down the elbow of the side you're rolling towards. That elbow is going to catch you. So you're not rolling straight off and landing on the floor. Your other arm is going to come over, hand finds the floor, and you'll very gently push the floor away, bringing yourself up to sit. As you come up to sit, you can stretch the legs out long in front of you and hang back into your hands, exactly as we did when we came out of the last shape out of our child's pose. The reason that I am so descriptive and slow in bringing you up out of the shape is because what I want to avoid more than anything is you doing what I call the Exorcist Sit-Up. If you've seen the film, you'll understand it, which is to come right up from this position. And you're just immediately putting a lot of stress back into the body, which doesn't need to be there. So what we do instead, if you didn't catch it the first time, this is how it looks when we roll over to one side. We catch the knees and bring them together. We put an elbow down on the floor, and we use that elbow to support us as we roll off and press away. Bringing yourself up super carefully with a lot of kindness in the body. When you've found your way up to seated, you will be stretching out the legs, giving that everything a bit of a wiggle, a bit of a stretch if you need to. And from here, we're coming into our final shape. Our final shape is Shavasana, which you will recognize and you will know, our final relaxation posture. You will have practiced it at the end of lots of different practices at this point in your course. So, what's different about practicing Shavasana in a restorative class? Well, we use a little bit more support for the body. And we try to find that sensation that the body is in suspended animation. So the body is completely held and supported. So what we're going to do is adjust some of our props to begin with. So you're going to take your pillows and set them off to one side. We're going to come to them momentarily. You're going to shift your books right the way down to the end of your mat. So they're going to stay in that same little platform that you created, but they'll be right down at the end of your mat. And the books are going to catch your heels. The two cushions come next, and they're just stacked simply one on top of the other. You're going to take one of your blankets and fold it into a square that is slightly bigger. That is slightly bigger, just trying to think about how many times I need to fold this, than your shoulders. So just a touch wider than your shoulders, that will do just about for me. It's maybe a little bit narrow. So that is going to go, leave this blanket off to the side just for a moment. That is going to go up the top of your mat and it's going to catch your head. You're now sitting, if you're anything like I am, in between the blanket which is for your head, the pillows which are for the back of your knees, and the books which are for your heels. With all of that in mind, you can lay yourself down into this shape. So we're going to practice a Shavasana laying on our back. If you really don't like lying on your back, you're welcome to lie on your side, if that's preferable to you. And I'll show you how you would adjust this shape for lying on your side in just a second. So we'll bring ourselves down to lying on our back. We're going to bring the knees up and onto the cushions, maybe give the cushions a bit of a squish to get them in the right shape and to really support the backs of the legs, and the heels come to rest on the books. If it's too high, take them away. But for most of us, the heels supported on the books will just add that little extra sensation that the body is fully supported here. From there, you're going to bring yourself down onto your back, and it should be just about right. It should be that the blanket lines up with the top of your shoulders. So my shoulders are on the floor, but the blanket is supporting my head. And what I'm going to do here is just catch the corners of the blanket. So holding onto the corners of the blanket, I'm going to lift my head very slightly and pull the corners of the blanket up onto my shoulders. And in doing that, I create a little ruffle in the blanket underneath my neck, which supports my neck completely, as though I was wearing one of those kind of travel pillows that people wear on the plane. You could also choose, if you want to sort of roll in the top corners of if you've got a blanket that is much bigger than mine, if it's wider, you could roll in the top corners of the blanket and create a little kind of nook for your head to rest in completely. So you can kind of mold the top blanket around your head. From here, hands can come down beside the body or hands can rest on the belly, whatever feels right for you. This is our reclined Shavasana. If you feel like you need a little adjustment here or to make any changes, you're welcome to do that. If you're not lying reclined because you'd rather lie on your side, let me just quickly show those people how a side-lying Shavasana could look. So what you're going to do instead is flip your cushions around. You're going to pop a cushion between your knees and take your other cushion up to the top of your mat. The cushion that is between your knees gives good support all the way down to your feet, and then your top cushion is going to, you're going to use that to hug in the body. You might here need to fold your blanket over again to get a little bit more height into it, because you're going to want it to catch the back, the side of the neck. So I've just folded it over one more time, and then I'll bring myself down with one arm extended, cushion on top. That cushion hugs right in beside the body, so your top arm is fully supported and your head rests on the blanket. You want the spine to be in one line. So what you'll be able to see looking at me in the video is that I'm not, my shoulders aren't much higher than my hips. There's not a massive scoop out of my waist. Everything is roughly in a straight line. So that's why we're using those supports. So whichever version of Shavasana you found yourself in, I'm going to go back to my reclined Shavasana because that's my preference. Whichever version of Shavasana you found yourself in, make any adjustments you need to make to be comfortable here. You might choose at this point to cover the body with your extra blanket. Sorry. If you're covering the body, if you'd like to cover the body, but not completely, so you're interested in the idea, but it's maybe too warm to cover the entire body with the blanket, my suggestion is always that you cover the front of the hips with a blanket. And you might even choose to just lift the hips slightly and tuck that blanket in either side to give the sensation that you're being hugged in around the hips. And that just can allow the hips and the lower back to completely relax and let go. So just that very small kind of tucking in. So it's a slight roll, and then a tuck in underneath you, and then a slight roll and a tuck in underneath you will provide the sensation that you're being hugged in around the waist. It's really soothing and relaxing. It's especially nice if you are somebody who suffers from abdominal cramps, period pain, or anything like that. This blanket wrapping around the waist, particularly if you can get it in nice and snug, is a really lovely way to kind of hug the body in tight. You can, of course, use the blanket to cover the entire body right the way down to the feet as well if you want to. Hands can rest on the belly, hands can rest out wide by your sides, whatever suits you. And we're dropping into some stillness here. You might choose to have a big sigh as you bring yourself into stillness in your Shavasana. Letting the air just release from the body through the mouth. The stillness that we look for in Shavasana is maybe a heavier stillness. So if you can now, draw your attention to the parts of the body that are in contact with the floor underneath you. Notice the heavy heels, the backs of the thighs, the pelvis. Notice the shoulders, the backs of the hands. Notice the back of the head. Feel those parts of the body sinking into the floor. Feel the floor rising up to meet the body underneath. And remember, as before, you're letting whatever is here be here. Irritation, frustration, restlessness, sadness, anger, happiness, joy, softness. You're letting whatever comes up be what it is. Remembering that if the mind is wandering, that's fine. And as we come into our last minute here, see if you're able to start to bring your attention back, layer by layer, out of the depths of the softness of that shape, and back up towards the surface of the body, the skin. Feel the clothes against your skin, feel the blanket maybe against your skin, feel your skin against the floor. Feel your body fully present in this moment right now. And then start to deepen your inhale breath, beginning maybe to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Maybe wanting to roll circles at the wrists or at the ankles. Some people really love the sensation of rolling the head from side to side. You might choose to do that. And then eventually your inhale breath will just naturally become big enough that you can take a full body stretch, reaching the arms up overhead, stretching them out long, stretching the feet away. Like a yawn for the whole body. From here, you're going to gently draw your knees up and in towards your chest. You might choose to stay covered up, bringing the blanket with you. I'm just moving mine so that you can see what I'm doing. And then from this position, we'll roll again onto our favourite side. But this time, we're going to just pause there. So roll yourself onto your favourite side and pause. Maybe close the eyes one more time. Take a full round of breath. And then using your top hand, you'll very gently press the floor away and bring yourself up kindly, carefully to a seated position. And we'll meet in that seated position. Hands can rest wherever you like. You can sit however you like. You might keep the eyes closed or the gaze cast down towards the floor. Soaking in this softness, this ease in the body. If you would like to seal your practice, you're more than welcome to. You might choose to bring your hands to heart center or bow your head to your heart. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm really pleased that you've been able to make some time to try out this restorative yoga practice. And I hope it's something that you feel like you might be able to develop as part of your own practice in the future. There'll be many more restorative classes to come from me and the team at Hot Lotus. So do let us know if that's something that you'd be interested in. Thank you so much, and I'll see you all really soon.